Hello. Welcome to Child Find Detectives, the journey to supportive education for every child. This presentation was given at the Director of Special Education Institute, September 9th through 10th, 2024 in Lexington, Kentucky. The objectives of our session today are to gain an understanding of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, Child Find regulations, and to implement the implementation of Child Find procedures and Child Find reporting mechanisms, indicators 11 and 12. My name is Andrea Bartholomew, and I am the branch manager for school readiness and the 619 state coordinator, which is preschool special education. Today I have with me
Ann Simpson. I am an exceptional child consultant in the guidance and support branch.
And I'm Sheena Wethington, and I am also an exceptional children consultant in the Division of IDEA monitoring and results.
What is Child Find? According to the Kentucky Administrative Regulations, KAR 707 KAR 1300, and the Code of Federal Regulations, 34 CFR 300-111, Child Find is the process where local education agencies, LEAs, must locate, identify, and evaluate all children with disabilities from birth to age 21 who may require special education services and related services. Who are you looking for? Children that are between the ages of 3 to 21, that are in or out of school, advancing from grade to grade, residing in a home, facility, or residence within the LEA's geographical boundaries, permanently placed in private school, homeschool, or attends virtual school, foster children or wards of the state, highly mobile, migrant, or homeless children, and children that are incarcerated in a juvenile detention center, local, or regional jail. An LEA is deemed to have knowledge that a child is a child with a disability if the parent of the child has expressed concern in writing or orally to personnel of the LEA or teacher of the child that the child is in need of special education and related services. If an evaluation has been requested by the parent, or if a teacher of the child or other personnel of the LEA has expressed concerns directly to the Director of Special Education, the DOSE, or other administrator about a pattern of performance or behavior. An LEA is deemed to not have knowledge that a child is a child with a disability if, after receiving information that the child may have a disability, an evaluation has been conducted by the LEA and it has been determined that the child does not have a disability. The LEA determined that an evaluation was necessary and the parents have been provided notice of those determinations, or the parents refused to consent to an evaluation or refused initial services for the child. Who is responsible for Child Find? The student's district of residence is responsible for Child Find. When a student enrolls as a non-resident pupil in a district, that receiving district becomes the student's district of residence for the length of the enrollment term, as outlined by local district policy, and assumes responsibility for Child Find. If a student completes an enrollment term and is not re-enrolled as a non-resident pupil, Child Find responsibility returns to the district in which the child resides. An LEA where a private school is located is required to determine the number of children with disabilities attending private schools in an LEA by conducting a thorough and complete Child Find process for parentally placed private school children.
what are the LEA responsibilities for Child Find when it comes to Part C and Part B transition. Part C, which in Kentucky is known as the Kentucky Early Intervention Services, KEIS, formerly known as First Steps. School students from Part C from KEYS will transition to Part B in their school district. The LEA is responsible to ensure a smooth and effective transition from that program. They are required to participate in transition planning conferences for preschool age children with disabilities that are being served by that early intervention program. This can look a little different in different places. We know that sometimes it's hard when people schedule meetings at last minute's notice, but it's a requirement through the IDEA as well as Kentucky regulation that we have a smooth and effective transition process. During that transition conference, it's very important that the family understands the referral process. This may be the first time they've been told that there may be something with their child to be able to receive some special education services in the school district. They must understand that you must understand this is the first time that they may have impact or encountered the school district personnel. It's very important to help them understand that the process is a long one and that it could take different twists and turns, but at the end of the day, everyone around the table is there for the best interest of their child. The timeline for determining eligibility is 60 school days from that referral or the child's third birthday. The child's third birthday is the deadline for a Part C to Part B transition. Permission can be granted by the parent for the key service personnel to attend that referral ARC. That's a really good source of information for you as an ARC to help with the evaluation process, to help with the referral, filling up the paperwork about interventions. Those personnel can really help with those things. You also should get a release of information to get any evaluation that could be used from Part C. If they have an evaluation that is current on the child that meets the standard for eligibility, you may be able to use that. And you also need to make sure that you have a verified parent for Part B permission to evaluate. Part C is a little different with whom they consider the parent of a child, and they are a little bit more relaxed in their guidelines, as we know that our kids live in lots of different homes. So making sure that for our Part B IDA and Part B school district regulations that we find that verified parent is important. The LEA is responsible for implementing a system that explains how the referrals will be accepted from district or non-district sources and acted upon in a timely manner. It's also important to ensure that the child is provided an appropriate, relevant instruction and intervention services. However, completing those intervention services, or as we call them usually RTI or MTSS, they should not delay the evaluation of a child with a suspected or known disability. Students coming from Part C have been identified as a child with a delay of some sort. You must not delay an evaluation based on paperwork, based on RTI paperwork. It should include input from parents and providers, and you can complete that RTI concurrently with the evaluation process.
What are the LEA's responsibilities for Child Find? They are to conduct early intervening services for children from kindergarten through 12th grade, with emphasis on those in kindergarten through 3rd grade who may need additional academic and behavioral support. They also want to implement a system that explains how referrals will be accepted from district or non-district sources and acted upon in a timely manner. They also want to ensure that the child is provided appropriate, relevant instruction and intervention services, and also ensure that data-based documentation is collected, evaluated, and maintained at reasonable intervals. They also want to provide the parent or guardian with a copy of procedural safeguard notices that includes the parent's rights upon initial referral and the request for an evaluation. You also want to obtain parental consent in writing prior to the initial evaluation being conducted and before specially designed instruction and related services are provided. After the parental consent has been received in writing, the 60 school day timeline will begin. Also ensure that a full and individual evaluation is conducted for every child that is considered for specially designed instruction and related services, and then use the results of an evaluation ARC meeting to determine the needs of the child and develop an individual education program, IEP, if needed. Some key points to remember can be found in the Kentucky Guide to Special Education Due Process. Anyone including teachers, parents, and others, can make a referral if it is suspected that a child has a disability at any time. The referral begins the process of determining whether a child has a disability and needs special education services. Referrals or requests for evaluation can be made in person, but in phone or in writing, but written documentation is the best. When making a referral, regardless of the source, does not ensure the child will be evaluated, but does require the ARC to discuss the concerns and determine the next steps. The Office of Special Education and Early Learning, OSEAL, will provide a self-assessment spreadsheet to all LEA Directors of Special Education, or DOSES, to enter Indicator 11 data. So step 1 is that OSEAL instructs LEAs to randomly select and review 10% of student files who receive parental consent for an initial evaluation. LEAs will select no fewer than 10 and no more than 50 files. Step 2, OSEAL reviews and validates self-reported noncompliance and performs random desk reviews to validate self-reported compliance. 10% of LEAs will be randomly selected.
Reporting compliance for Indicator 12 is very similar to Indicator 11. The OSEAL will provide a self-assessment form to all DOSES and preschool coordinators to enter Indicator 12 data. This is for students transitioning from Part C to Part B between July 1st and July 30th of that year. They should be listed on that form. This date goes by the third birthday. So if a child turns 3 July 15th, they would count on the next year's compliance report. Even if you had their transition meeting back in June or May, it goes by the date of their third birthday. So you have to make sure that you're careful with that. An OSEAL will review and validate self-reported noncompliance and perform random desk audits reviews to validate self-reported compliance. 10% of LEAs will be randomly selected.
And these are some resources that you may find beneficial in regards to Child Find. The evaluation and eligibility special education process document can be found on the Kentucky Department of Education's website. It provides information and resources on evaluation and eligibility. The Kentucky Guide to Special Education Due Process, which provides information on the requirements and steps in the special education process. OSET Memo 1617, Response to Intervention, RTI, and Preschool Services from April 29, 2016, provides information around RTI and use in preschool special education services under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Frequently asked questions, general issues related to non-public schools from the Office of Non-Public Education, August 2019. Provides the non-public school community with frequently asked questions about federal education benefits and services available to private school students, teachers, and families. And the Dear Colleague letter on IDEA services and Head Start from October 5th, 2022 provides information on the responsibilities state education agencies, LEAs, and Head Start programs have for implementing IDEA to ensure that children with disabilities enrolled in Head Start programs receive free, appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment.
Thank you so much for joining us today and for reviewing this video. Our contact information is on the screen with our email addresses and phone numbers. Please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. Thank you.